So this is Dr. Jan Roberts here, and in these slides I'd like to show you some examples of 2 porcelain onlays that we have made for Cheryl. So when we talk about onlays, what we mean are dental restorations that are used to cover one or more of the corners of a tooth. The corners of the teeth are called cusps, and we use onlays when a tooth has a large cavity or a large filling and risks breaking because the inside of the tooth has been hollowed out and these corners are undermined. Onlays don't cover the entire tooth like a dental crown does. They don't go all the way down to the gum line, all the way around the tooth, so they are more conservative than a dental crown. These days we generally make onlays from gold or porcelain or something called zirconia. In this case, we chose to use a porcelain onlay. The type of porcelain is Emax. It's made by the Ivoclar Vivadent company. Emax is made from lithium disilicate. It is strong and it's durable and very natural looking, so it's often a good alternative to metal. And because there is no metal involved in it, there's no dark gray line at the gum line that you sometimes see or quite often can see with a porcelain fused to metal crown. So it blends in very nicely with the rest of your teeth. So here we see the 2 teeth that are going to receive treatment. This is what they look like before we start. They're 2 upper molars. They have old fillings, one an old mercury amalgam, the other an old composite resin, and the tooth that has the composite resin filling is missing one of its cusps or the corners. You can see the cusp is broken off. You can also see some cracks in the areas between the teeth, and this is a common finding around old amalgam fillings. Amalgam expands and contracts at a different rate than tooth structure, and when it's surrounded by tooth, these cracks can propagate out through the tooth structure as the metal expands. Because back teeth have heavy chewing forces on them, and because these fillings are quite large in size, the best treatment for them is to have onlays rather than simply have the old fillings taken out and being replaced by new fillings. Particularly when there's a corner or a cusp missing, we need to use something that is designed to be strong when it's in large bulk. Mercury fillings and composite resin fillings are generally not overly strong when they're used in large bulk. So before we start, we need to make a mold of the existing tooth structure so we can make temporary onlays for these teeth while the lab is creating the porcelain ones. So we temporarily repair the corner that's missing and make a mold with this soft polyvinyl siloxane putty material called Template, which is made by a company called Clinician's Choice. We syringe the material into this little metal tray, as you see here. And then the mold or the soft putty is placed into the mouth over the teeth that are being treated. It's held there for 1 minute while it sets and then is removed. So the teeth are numbed up, a rubber dam is placed, and we take out all the old filling material and any decay that is underneath the old fillings that has crept in around or between the teeth. We also take away any weak or cracked bits of tooth that are weak and need to be replaced, and we make a shoulder around the outside edges of the tooth where the porcelain is going to meet the tooth structure, and this is a butt joint that the porcelain can sit on and is quite strong. You see some dark areas still inside the tooth here, and this is not decay, but it is stain that has resulted from the old metal fillings leaching into the tooth structure, or the decay has stained the tooth in the past. So this is not decay. This is all cleaned out, ready to be covered up with the new onlays. But it does look dark. This will not show when the onlays are in place. The next step is to take an impression of the prepared tooth structure. So we want to make sure that this impression is an exact negative of what the teeth are in the mouth at this time. So there can be no bleeding from the gums. The gums need to be slightly retracted and not bleeding. So a small amount of a soft clay-like material called Traxident is syringed around the teeth. Traxidant contains some aluminum chloride, which is an astringent, and this discourages any bleeding from the gums. So it's left in place for 2 minutes and then thoroughly washed off. The next step is to take the impression. So we fill up the red tray that you see there with impression material and place it in the mouth to capture the detail of all the upper teeth, including the 2 that we've prepared for the onlays. Prior to the tray being placed in the mouth, I have syringed some light body impression material around the teeth, and you'll see that in the next slide. So here's the impression material. Once it is set, it's removed, and you can see that there are 2 colors here. The impression is carefully inspected to ensure that all the required information has been captured. And in this close-up picture of the impression, you can see the 2 materials that have been used. There is an orange-colored light viscosity wash that I syringed around the teeth, and then the green is a heavier viscosity material that's been placed in the tray and then placed into the mouth over the orange light body material. And this heavy body hydraulically helps wash the flow wash into all the little nooks and crannies of the teeth. We also need an impression and model of the lower teeth and a bite registration that shows how the upper and lower teeth fit together. So this helps the ceramist make sure that they build the onlays to fit comfortably into the bite. We then need to take a registration or recording of the color of the existing tooth structure. So we select a shade tab that matches the color of the existing tooth preparation and take a photograph of that shade tab next to the tooth. This information then allows the ceramist to know what color the tooth is that they're starting from, so that they know what colors to use to build the onlay into something that matches with the adjacent teeth. The next step is to make some provisionals or temporary onlays that are worn during the time that the porcelain onlays are being fabricated. So a soft self-curing resin is syringed into the mold of the teeth that we took at the beginning of the appointment, and it's carefully placed back into the mouth over the prepared teeth. It's allowed to set for 1 minute and is then removed. Once removed from the mouth, the provisional material is left to set a little bit further for another minute or 2, and then the resin is gently teased out of the mold and carefully trimmed to remove any excess flash. So here you see the 2 temporary onlays that have been trimmed. At this stage, they're joined together for stability. It helps prevent them dislodging prematurely. The final porcelain onlays, of course, will be individual and separate. It's only these temporary ones that are joined together. So then we cement these temporary or provisional onlays in place. We use a weak cement because we want to be able to remove them easily when it's time to insert the porcelain ones. The provisionals are meant to function for a week or 2 or maybe slightly longer. They protect the underlying tooth structure and allow some function on these teeth. They're made out of plastic and cemented with a weak cement, so you have to be careful that you don't chew on them with anything that's too hard or sticky. Otherwise, you could break them or dislodge them prematurely. So here you see a picture of the porcelain onlays that have been fabricated by the ceramist and returned from the lab. So we place them on the stone model and make sure that they fit properly, inspect them and check that everything looks the way it's supposed to. Then the inner surface of the porcelain onlays is coated with a layer of silane. Silane is a coupling agent that allows dissimilar materials to adhere to each other. So it aids with the porcelain adhering to the resin bonding cement that is used to bond the onlays onto the tooth. So in this case, the silane used was something called Monobond Plus, and it's part of Ivoclar's multi-link auto mix system. The teeth are now prepared to receive the onlays. They're numbed up and a rubber dam is placed to provide isolation from mouth fluids. The bonding process is a very sensitive one, and any contaminations from saliva or blood can interfere with proper bonding. So we use a rubber dam to help provide some isolation. It also prevents any accidental swallowing or aspiration of the materials that we use. So the rubber dam is placed, the teeth are cleaned and then coated with a self-etching primer. Again, this is made by Ivoclar. It's part of the same system. This is multi-link primer A and B. So it's placed on the tooth, scrubbed lightly in, and then air thinned. The onlays are then filled with the resin cement, the multi-link auto mix, and seated over the teeth and pressed into place. You can see that excess resin cement is extruding around the sides of the onlays. You hold the onlays in place and then tack them in place with the light that we use to, it's a visible light curing unit, and this changes the cement from a runny consistency to a soft putty-like consistency, which can then be cleaned away before it's fully set. So the excess cement is removed from around the margins and from in between the teeth, and at this stage it's quite soft and gel-like and can be removed quite easily. We need to make sure that there's no excess cement left in between the teeth, so we use floss to get in between the teeth and remove any excess. Because the cement is not fully set at this point, the onlays are being held into place so that we don't dislodge them while we're cleaning up the excess. Here are the two onlays after the rubber dam has been removed. We take the rubber dam off and check the bite, make any adjustments that are necessary to make sure that the bite is comfortable. And these new Emax Porcelain Onlays look very natural. They look like natural teeth, and they're very strong and durable and reinforce the strength of the natural tooth as well. They should provide comfortable function for many years. So here you see a before and after picture of these same two teeth. The two teeth before look like they're in need of some attention. They are not functionally very strong. They've got a broken corner. Afterwards, you can see with the new porcelain onlays in place, they look like two natural teeth and should function very comfortably and reliably for many years. So this is a good example of onlays being used to repair and restore teeth that are quite broken down, and how it can be quite conservatively done, and you can end up with a result that is natural looking and very strong.